You ready? Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Lamar.
Present.
Mr. Kvicki.
Present. Stand for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 10th, 2021. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar.
Yes.
Mr. Kvicki.
Yes. Okay, I make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of August 27th, 2021. Do I hear, make a motion to approve? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar.
Yes.
Mr. Kvicki.
Yes. All right, now we move to open forum.
Me.
Stacy is signed in.
You said you didn't have anything, is that right? Or did you?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I just really am here to listen, but I also wanted to follow up on our conversation about the berm that we had last month, and see if you all found anything out about that.
So I did contact Brian Snyder. So since we're on camera, let me repeat what the question was last month. The question was that there was an original draft or some version of the landscaping plan for the Maserati Alfa Romeo expansion. And then the final plan that was approved by Hamilton County and installed, your question was that there appeared to be changes that specifically involved a berm. And so the morning after our last meeting, I put all of that in a request to Hamilton County Planning and Zoning and asked them to look into it and then to let me know what their perspective on it. And I have not heard back from them on that.
So, just to clarify, the final plan, so both the resolution from the commissioners indicated that there needed to be a berm, and then the plan had a berm on it, the approved plan. I didn't see a plan that didn't have it on there. It's just there's not one there now. So I don't know if that's more.
Yeah,
clear.
and that's for them to answer.
Yeah.
So I do know that they are have been continued to be short-staffed, and they also still have people working remotely. Sometimes we get quick turns on items, and sometimes we don't. But I can assure you that it was within the day that I emailed and said that that had been brought up, and that I would appreciate and that we would appreciate a better understanding of what the progression was of the plan reviews and final approvals, and specifically what was the decision on the berm. So I can follow up with them in the morning and say, hey, we'd like to know where you are on this.
Yeah. I know when I was working even before COVID, emails typically, and I know they're swamped.
They
The
are.
emails didn't typically get a response. I had to call, and sometimes I had to call several people. So.
And have you called them about this matter as well?
No, because I feel like at this point,
Okay.
you know, I have taken a lot of initiative to do that, and I just felt like it might, coming from the trustees and from Columbia Township is going to have more weight with them. Me saying this now, I don't think really will have any impact.
As I said, they're
As a
typically
citizen, as a
responsive.
resident, yeah. Because it's talking about the
Yeah.
plans and approval and that sort of thing. So.
They've lost some people. I know we had a meeting. We've had several meetings with different department heads and they've lost people. I'm not explaining it or excusing it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that we followed through immediately, and I went to the director of the department and the person who worked on the project, both of them, and just have not heard anything back.
Well, what do you
yet.
think about contacting somebody that did the construction, the company, I forget what their name, Schumacher or, you know. Like,
Schumacher Dugan?
Yeah, like the project manager, or, I don't know, somebody within the Rusty group themselves?
They could tell me what their recollection perhaps was, but if the county is the responsible party for making the decision, and so I want to know from the county what the decision-making was and what the final approval was, and if there was some modification, why. I want that from the county, because other than that, it's people who are involved in the process, but they weren't the final decision maker.
So the plans that he gave me and that he showed, I met him, had the berm on it. So are you thinking that
He showed me, he,
the project manager?
okay,
Schumacher doing it. When
Okay.
they first started, I went up there and he was very nice.
Yeah, very
He pulled
nice.
all the plans out.
Very nice guy.
I looked at them when they started last fall. So the berm was on there, so are you thinking that in between that time, when he had the plans approved and construction, that something happened?
I'm not
or-
thinking anything other
No.
than that you brought to my attention that
Okay.
at some point, a berm that was discussed, approved, proposed, and I don't know, I was
Yeah.
not here.
Well, I think the confusion is was it discussed or was it the final verdict? And that's what I'm not sure, because Stacy, I remember the berm being discussed. I'm just not sure when Hamilton County Commissioners made that approval.
Here, I have a copy of the resolution.
But what-
And maybe this will help when
So-
you guys are having your
Okay,
conversation.
So let me,
And,
I can get a copy
But
of
the
that. We have
question is-
copies of that.
Because there's
though.
no question in my mind, the contractor's gonna do what's exactly in the plans. So he
And
would not be
Hamilton County
the-
signed off on the landscaping install, so they came out and signed off on it. So we just have to do the check back into it. And we've committed to you that we
No, I
will look
understand.
into
I'm just
it.
trying to make it easier.
And then we've also
Like,
committed
here's,
that we'll do landscaping improvements in that area once the project is completed. Our road project is completed next year.
here's the-
And we'll review this.
So here where it says, this is the resolution, so there's the part about the earthen berm, I'll leave that with you. Did I give you one of these last time?
And again, Stacy, and I believe
Is
you.
that the
and I
signed
believe
one from the,
this. I
is
would
it
just-
signed from the
I'm not sure.
commissioners?
Stacy, I have no reason not to believe that this is
No,
accurate.
I understand, David, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to help.
I get it. We
Just
will get to the,
some of the
we will
Yeah.
get to the bottom of it, and
Okay.
they will install what was prescribed, that's for sure. I will, you can guarantee that they are obligated to do that by law.
And then this was just, I don't know why it came out blue on my printer, but there's the
Printer's running out of
landscape.
ink.
I don't know, but the little circle there shows the berm. So
Okay,
anyway,
all right.
maybe that'll help with the,
We will look into it. It's just hard for
Okay.
me to read if this is the official final binding resolution or not, but I hear you. I definitely remember the berm being discussed and all that. I just don't remember, I know there was some disagreements at the end, and I don't know what finally got approved. That's what I'm just not sure of. That said, Melissa, you're gonna look into this?
I
and-
did,
Yep.
I'll look into it again.
Okay, got it.
all right,
Okay,
thank you
Follow up with
guys.
him tomorrow?
Appreciate it.
and thank you.
I can do a phone call tomorrow.
All right, thank you. We still are on open forum. Anybody else for open forum? Tom?
I had brought up to Brian that there was a bill introduced by Mr. Brinkman on the annexation of properties that were qualified for being in 2 school districts, and that they would be able to get a choice. It had been previously approved by the Ohio legislature and signed into law, and the federal court struck it down because it was not in an education bill. It was under the general funding bill, and Mr. Brinkman reintroduced it with a back date to December 31st of 2020. Mr. Brinkman's not been responsive to phone calls. Chris Kritikos had been my primary link to that legislation, and with Mr. Brinkman being term limited and now running for city council, I am worried that this is just going to get lost in the shuffle. And there are many other locations around that are involved in this.
You mentioned annexation. You mean annexation of the property, or you mean you mean
School.
just school district?
School district
But
change.
not-
Sorry,
okay.
Annexation was the wrong word.
Okay, that's what I
The
meant.
right word is,
Petition to change school districts.
thank you, petition to change school districts. We've done the petition 3 different times. Indian Hill Schools has approved the petition, and I have testified at the Ohio legislature. It has moved out of committee and now is awaiting supposedly attachment to an education bill to be passed, and I have lost the ability to communicate with Mr. Brinkman.
So we're looking, Mr. Brinkman passed the bill. You've got Indian Hill wants you. You guys are interested in being a part of that school district, and there's been a hiccup of how you couldn't finish that.
Now, Mr. Brinkman's committee passed it from committee
Yes,
to
right.
general session to be attached to an education bill. All of the legislators understand it's been previously approved and want to do this again. All complaints from the major school districts have been dealt with. It has languished now, and I've not had an ability to follow up on it. And there are many other small locations like us that have the same problem. I'd just like to find out what the status is. I have no way to do it right now. My only connection was through Chris or through Tom Brickman, and that's gone away.
And Melissa, as far as it relates to the school district, how much involvement are we allowed to have as far as that's concerned?
It is the voting precinct, the residents within the voting precinct, if it is passed into law, which I receive all legislative alerts on any matters that impact local or related legislation. I've received nothing on that. I had all the materials on the original, and then the strike down, so to speak, but I've not received anything that it has been passed into law. And typically, once they pass into law, if this is passed, I'm actually hearing a little bit different version of support and non-support than you're mentioning, but I think when you talk to different people, you get different positions. So typically after it's passed into law, they give it to that department to write up some administrative policy attached to it, and then it's rolled out, and so that's typically when we hear about it. So I believe that Mr. Kritikos at one point had hired an attorney that he was working with.
Correct.
Who had the expertise in that field. The last time I heard any discussion on that bill, the city of Cincinnati was very clear that they will fight in the courts any precinct that attempts to leave their school district. So
And
that's
Melissa-
not something that, I'm sorry, I did
There you
not
go.
answer your question. The township is not involved in a resident precinct's decision to change school districts. It is,
We have a conflicted position because
Yeah.
Cincinnati School District is our school district in Madison Place. And at some point, we'd even talked about getting involved because I know that's a position you advocate and want. We want our residents to have what they want for property values and other interests. But we were advised by our legal counsel that it's completely separate and we have to be very careful. And you even got some pushback from the Cincinnati School District when we look for other economic entitlements, other things that we're just in a little bit of a
well,
tricky spot.
when Mr. Kritikos had filed the paperwork with the school district under the original legislation, it raised the alarm bells, and then they told me, their attorney reached out that they were not going to go quietly, and then, as he said, it was struck down, and not because of the intent of the legislation, but because it was tucked and hidden in a budget bill, I believe.
The
Yeah,
bottom
so-
line is, it sounds to me like the township really can't take a position, even though I know you'd like us to, and even though I would like to help you. So it's gonna really put you in a position that if that's what your neighborhood wants, and I suppose, because they could, I mean, I doubt you have kids in the school district, but they can help property values, and you feel like you're closely aligned with Indian Hill School District. I mean, I understand why you're advocating and want what you want. Unfortunately, I don't think we have or can have a position in it. And so I guess the answer is you probably need to go hire a professional attorney that understands those things and have them advocate that position. It's the same thing Chris Kritikos and his specific interest, because obviously he lived in that neighborhood, that specific part of Madison Place. He took a specific interest in it, so he hired an attorney personally.
Yes.
Because we even looked and thought, can we reimburse him for that? Under the spirit that it helps property values if, you know, you get what you want, and you got Indian Hill School District, which is a great school district, et cetera. And I know the same position could be advocated on the other side of Madison Place with Marymount schools. But our
Yeah.
position is we can't get
No.
involved.
And he still owns, as you're probably aware, he still owns that house, so he does have an interest.
Oh, I'm well aware of that.
So, and so Representative Brinkman's legislative aide is not answering calls or
Well,
emails?
I'm trying to reach him personally, as he gave me his number, and I'm not getting a response. But you've clarified one thing, that is the township cannot take a position. I now know my path. So-
And I don't mean it sounded coldly. I respect that we did visit this with our council, saying, you know, can we do something for these people that are advocating a position to improve property values? No different than somebody wanted a park or somebody wanted to be at Marymount
Right.
schools. We looked at all of them and thought, we really can't.
I got the clarification of you.
Yeah,
I'm good.
it's a
Yeah.
voter's choice.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other calls for open forum?
That's all I have. I don't have any emails.
Okay, let's go to reports. We start up with fiscal officer report with Ms. Heekin.
So August is the midpoint of the third quarter of the budget year. Our general fund ending balance was $3,263,217, which is a decrease of 1% from July. The restricted fund ending balance is $6,342,440, which is an increase of 31% from July. This is due to our second half revenue settlement from the Hamilton County Auditor was deposited early in August instead of the typical September deposit. Combined, these funds total $9,605,657, which is an increase of 18% from July. Revenues for August were $1,920,556. Expenses were $450,005. Year-to-date revenues, $5,745,420, and year-to-date expenses, $3,491,960. The next semi-annual settlement of property tax revenues from the Hamilton County Auditor will occur in April of 2022. Voter-approved levy revenues do not fully cover the cost of the township's public services. Our JEDZ business revenues supplement the cost of services that exceed our property tax revenues. And again, thanks to Columbia Township's success in attracting and supporting businesses, we are able to continue to provide residents with exceptional services at a lower cost.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we move on. Any questions about the road superintendent's report? Then we move on to the administrator's report with Ms. Taylor.
I have a little bit longer of a report, but I will attempt to move quickly through it. I have some interesting things to share. So we have published a refreshed version of our township newsletter. It drops to homes this week, and you have an advanced copy. Our goal was, because so many fantastic things are happening in the township, we wanted to refresh the look to make it more reader-friendly, which equals more pictures, more white space, and just very specific content. And then in some cases, if the reader is interested in additional content, we have an option to go online for more detail about the stories. I thought that you would enjoy a walk down memory lane back to some of the original newsletters of the township. And so this was one that I found for Kim Gray and Lauren Allison helped dig back in the archives. This is a 2001 fall, so exactly 20 years ago. This was the format that it was in when it went out, but I printed it larger. And what caught my eye is that in 2001, this month, 20 years ago, considering what's happened with the end of the war in Afghanistan and other matters really important in the past 30 days, our Veterans Memorial dedication ceremony was this month 20 years ago, and it was in this newsletter that I found.
Oh, wow.
That was this was a kickoff of this new version, or this first time ever of the township's newsletter. So I wanted to share that. And then the next iteration was in more of a folded format. And then Mr. Lemon is featured here, so this is after he came on board. John Zervisi, young man, many decades ago, and Susan, trustee. And then the next iteration, so this is when Mike Lemon worked with the board to introduce a logo that we have here still, and so this was the first edition that I could find. This is from 2008 with the logo and the colors, and so the blue, the orange, and then the red. That then Mike redesigned, which I thought was very attractive, but still a newsletter. But in its time, this was a very attractive layout. The Voice named the newsletter instead of just the news. Put the really nice colors to it, a simpler layout, lots of pictures, and then, as I said, this is our new magazine-style layout, and I hope residents and businesses will look forward to it. We do a really cool a photograph that is on both sides, and the photograph is intended to convey, we're achieving great things together. reaching high and going bold and going big, and the spirit of this community. And so that's that new look. And the theme of this edition is better than ever. And so each one of the features uses the better than ever tagline and changes the beginning descriptive words. So where we talk about our strength in the financial tools that we've put into place, it's financially stronger than ever. And then we have a feature on our upcoming Neighborhood Economic Development Grant Program that will kick off here in a couple of weeks, more beautiful than ever. And then we feature the crew working through our waste levy and the new Firehouse 2.0, more community oriented than ever. And then it just continues that way. And we have a wonderful feature that we're asking people in the community to share their Firehouse memories with us. And we're going to use those in the new Firehouse. We're going to have experience rooms, and we're going to have pictures and chances to listen to audio for people. We're going to do recordings of people and their memories. And so to kick it off, Trustee Susan Hughes shared the story of her brother, who's now deceased, who was a volunteer fireman, and she dug out old pictures of him. And so we featured that in there, and then we've invited people to share their memories through information at the bottom of that story. So she went first. So we just wanted to share that with you. The next iteration of the Township, what I call now a magazine, and hopefully we'll get more people will read it and read more of it, because it's simpler, cleaner, and really more to the point.
I have a couple quick things, if that's okay.
Yes.
First of all, it looks fantastic. I hope people read it. There's so much information in here. This will happen each quarter, this whole magazine?
Yes,
Okay.
our goal.
And it's a lot
And
of
then
news.
sometimes it is an enormous amount of work.
Yeah.
But it's more of how we are committed to trying to bring more and more information. But the print, we've been asked to keep the traditional print, but as we've all discussed here as well, and part of Lauren's role, and she was a big part of putting this together as well, is that we've reactivated Facebook. We are working on some other options for us to bring messages to residents the way that they want it: text,
Podcast.
listserv, email, that type of thing. Yes.
And one other thing, I love this part. I hope we get I get a lot of questions about our taxes, where they go towards. This is amazing right here. This helps me talk to residents and constituents about where our taxes go, or where they come
Yes.
from for the community. So this is page 4, so I hope people look at that.
So I appreciate that you brought that up, and I'll explain. Part of my background in professionals, city management, township management, is that one of the ways that you build trust with your residents and your businesses is that you are clear about the services that you provide, the value that they offer, and how you pay for them, who is paying for them. And so we did that page so that people could see that it's a shared partnership in this community between the residents and the businesses, and the value of having that shared partnership where other communities don't and have to make really hard decisions about continuing to raise taxes or cutting services, which many communities have. And we are increasing services and cutting taxes. So we're doing the opposite. And it's thanks to the resources that the tools that the trustee board had put into place long before I'm here. I'm just the beneficiary, and so is all of the residents. So
I think it's interesting that if you look at it, if I'm reading this correctly, that the tax increment financing district and the medical marijuana, which are to me the two newest created revenue sources, I mean, that brings in 42% of the income of the township. That's impressive.
Well, for Elliot.
yeah.
So 19.8.
I would really encourage you to keep up with the graphics for showing spending and showing income as well. Pictures speak 1,000 words.
Thank you.
I agree with
That's
you.
part of the simplification of
Yes.
the design.
I think it's very well done. I think it's great. And by the way, it's the first time I've seen do you guys have copies of this out here?
Not yet. This is hot off the press. We
You can
just
have
got
it.
copies.
Okay, she said it's coming soon.
But the Madison Place Fire Department's pretty impressive too.
That is a
Wonder-
a rendering.
Yeah, the rendering of the fire
It
department.
should hit, it's supposed to hit houses, I think,
impressive.
Wednesday.
Amazing.
Tomorrow. Supposed to, tomorrow.
So, there you go.
Really nice job.
Great job from a lot of
Thanks.
people. That was a lot of work.
Thank you. It was a
Thank
whole
you.
staff effort.
Yes, we'll thank them on the way out.
We had everybody involved.
Okay?
Okay, so a couple of items under the continuing pandemic. There are a couple of different agencies that people can reach out to for assistance, both residents and businesses. The Hamilton County Board of Commissioners set up a website, 513relief.org, and also you can call the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners main office. There's assistance for housing, utilities, food, jobs, and small business grants. I understand from Dustin Montgomery, our Economic Development Coordinator from Hamilton County Development Corp., HCDC, that they are now setting up a third grant round for businesses, and they are working on the framing for that program while we were speaking. And then Duke Energy sent out that they have established a fund for relief of utility bills and including eligible housing expenses. They first encourage people to go to the United Way online, which is 211.org. So we have a 513relief.org, which is the county, 513 obviously being the area code, and then 211.org, which is an informational number, which is the United Way, and that Duke Energy Ohio customers can call the number on their bill and ask if they qualify for assistance with utility expenses using COVID funds. We talked last time about the One Ohio opioid settlement. As of the last that I heard, and it may have changed in the past week, all but one community, and I think it was the city of Cincinnati, all communities in Ohio had signed up for the aggregated settlement, and the city of Cincinnati was still discussing that, as I said, unless it changed in the last few days. I want to remind residents again, I've started making this a regular feature of the administrative report because we receive so many calls about it. We have increasing problems with door-to-door solicitors posing as gas and electric reps and making promises to our residents. We have asked residents to not engage with them, do not let them in your home, and to close the door on them and to immediately call the sheriff's non-emergency dispatch because they are not registered as solicitors in the township and they are breaking the law and they are feeding you wrong information. I received, as a resident in my township, an interesting fancy flyer that encouraged me to switch, and it only would take a couple of minutes, and that I would get a lower rate. And this is what we've been telling residents. The solicitors are going door to door saying this came in the mail. And so I said, okay, where's the small print? And restrictions apply, review the terms on the reverse side of this letter. And when you get into tiny print, which I probably in the slide can't even read, it basically says that the fee that if you switch out of our township aggregation to one of these solicitors, you will receive that introductory rate for a period of 6 to 12 months, depending on who the solicitor is. And then after that, they will send you your new rate, and that's when they get you. And that is experience that we are hearing from residents who did it. They were confused, they switched, or they thought it was a better deal, and then they got the real bill after 6 or 12 months, and it was higher than if they had stayed in the aggregation program. So a reminder to all of our residents that we bid close to 1,700 households, and we do that with 6, 7 other communities. So we get a lower rate. We bid on the national market, and at the time that we bid, we get the lowest rate for the electric and gas generation. However, Duke Energy is still the transmission distribution utility, and Duke Energy does increase its rates through PUCO. And so if you see any fluctuations in your bill during our aggregation contracts, it is actually coming from Duke Energy, which is the transmission distribution. And curiously, after I had these two things in the packet already, September 1st, I received a notice as a township that Duke is applying for an increase in its distribution rates. So it has to go through before PUCO for that. So if they are approved, they will go into effect in 2022, so that will show up in your bill, but it has nothing to do with the township's valuable aggregation program. So I want to just continue to remind people, don't get pulled into that. Under our Great Things Are Happening in Columbia Township, coming November 2nd is the opportunity for the residents to vote for renewal of the waste and recycling district program that we have, one of our most popular services. And I actually talked to John Cervisi before the meeting, and he said the two communities that use it the most, which makes sense because they're the largest neighborhoods, are Madison Place and Ridgewood. We are going to propose to voters on November 2nd that they can cut the tax rate 32% on that levy. Thanks to our success in other economic development tools, we're going to offer that cut.
I'd love a little commentary on that if possible.
Yes.
I'm real excited about this because my neighborhood, and I'm sure other neighborhoods, have a lot of people on fixed incomes, and this isn't a huge savings, but it's meaningful savings for people, assuming this passes. So I would encourage people to consider this and read into the details. But I'm really proud of that we have the ability to do that because of the fiscal responsibility of this board and prior people that have worked here to think creatively around revenue. And I mean, this is our most popular service. We say this every month, right? And we're going to keep the same service and somehow reduce the taxes on it. It's unheard of. I've reached out to try to find other communities anywhere that is cutting taxes, and I think we're the only one that I'm aware of. And so I'm really proud of this one. So good job for everyone.
No, and thanks for advocating this. And I think even our podcast yesterday with Bridget Kelly, she said this is unheard of. So I'm proud of what we were able to accomplish. And again, thanks for advocating this. It takes an advocate, so
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And the Board of Elections approved the language, and the language does specify that the proposed levy is a decrease. So that was something that was
Yes.
important, that it was up at the top, and they did approve that. So we'll talk about that a little bit more at the next meeting. Our NED kickoff, so Neighborhood Economic Development Program, which we have dubbed NED, Columbia Township trustees voted to invest $500,000 from the medical marijuana proceeds. As President Kubicki says, we're turning marijuana into gold for the township. And residents can vote for one of two significant beautification projects for their communities and for their neighborhood. And we are sending out a postcard in the next couple of weeks to residents to give them guidance on how to vote online or by phone. And look for that. And their options will be either the beautiful street trees with an arborist to guide the most appropriate street tree selection, location, type, etc., or designer street signs. So look for that to come in the mail. So the first thing that you'll be receiving in the mail this week will be the new voice, and then by the end of next week or the week after, before October 1, you'll receive a postcard. Look for it. We have a spokesperson for NED who's going to be revealed on the postcard. His
Oh.
name is Ned, coincidentally,
Oh,
Neighborhood
boy.
Economic Development.
You guys are really awesome.
So look for Ned to appear in your...
His or hers. You don't know if it's a him.
That's true. Well,
Just saying.
so yes, we have a Ned. So wanted to make sure that people in the pile of everything that people are getting in their mailboxes these days, they're going to very clearly see Ned, and so that's going to be your ticket to vote for your favorite neighborhood project.
Do each of the 9 islands vote, or it's Madison
by
Place
neighborhood.
has a vote?
Yes,
So I might vote for something different than Stacy does. for
it's the
example.
majority of votes in
Yeah.
the neighborhood.
Okay.
It's a people's choice, that's how that works, and we have 15 designated neighborhood areas, and then we have a few outlier streets that aren't part of neighborhoods, and we've actually set aside some funds to do some
Oh, cool.
work in those streets as well. So, but the software is set up by specific neighborhoods, and all of the addresses, street addresses and house numbers are in the software, so the household goes in, votes once, it closes, and we'll do a big reveal for all the neighborhoods about what their choices
Wow.
are, and then also what the amounts are for all the neighborhoods the percentage of the 500 grand.
Okay.
Okay, it was on a per household
That's great.
allocation, so. The only other update that I want to share, I have two quick things, and then I'll skip over some of the other items. In August, we had 2 meetings because we had 8 resolutions that we needed to pass. One of them was the award to A&A Safety to construct the new pedestrian crosswalk improvements on Plainville at Grace and do pedestrian crosswalk striping upgrades at Cambridge. And so we did the special meeting so that they would be able to build that before the end of the year. If we had waited until this meeting, they told us that due to supplier, the same issues that we talk about all the time, that they would not be able to do that before the end of the year. So that's one of the reasons why we actually don't have resolutions this evening, because we did 2 meetings in August. But I wanted to say that that is now done, and we should have a draft study back by the end of this month, early next month, on the township-wide speeding and stop sign rolling study. I don't know if that's a technical term, but I'll use it. That was the study that I've mentioned before that TEC Engineering is doing for us. They put out speeding cables and actually recorded speeds in all of the targeted areas of the township. And then we worked with Lieutenant Enderly and the Hamilton County courts to download citation data for speed citations and failure to stop. Yes. So all that's being put together with recommendations for each location that was in the study about recommendations for radar, driver feedback, signs, and others things that we've discussed in prior meetings. So the last thing that I have, and Brian, I believe that you'll talk about this under your trustee report, so I won't go into detail about it, but we got some great pictures back from the grand opening of Fleet Feet at 50 West on September 13th, so just about a month ago. And Brian attended that for the township. I was out of town, so thank you for that. And that is my report.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, can I ask a question? On this 500,000 that is going to be used for either street signs or trees, how does that dovetail with the grant part from the Hamilton County Development Commission for beautification?
So it's the same program, but we have to handle it differently in neighborhoods that have an HOA than neighborhoods that do not. So I can talk to you about that a little bit after the meeting. Okay?
Okay. All right.
All the neighborhood allocations are still by household, but it's handled differently because you have a legal business entity and the other neighborhoods do not. And so we have to roll the program out differently. So this program, it's the same program, but it's different depending on whether you have a legal entity for your neighborhood. So I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay, next, any questions about the Economic Development Quarterly Report by Mr. Montgomery?
Nope.
He'll be in next month.
Okay. Then we go on to the police report with Lieutenant Enderly.
So just a couple of extra things that I had to add. So once again, the Sheriff's Office will be partnering with the DEA, the National Drug Take-Back Program. Area residents don't have to be a Columbia Township resident. Area residents may drop off their unused prescription drugs on Saturday, October 23rd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Sheriff's Office, District 4, which is located at the Village of Silverton Administration Building at 6943 Montgomery Road. And they can find more information on the program on the DEA's website. The only other thing is that I'll be out of town beginning Thursday morning, and I'll be returning Tuesday. Sergeant Reed will once again be your point of contact. I'll make sure that Melissa gets all that information.
Unless we call you. I'm just kidding.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Just a comment. I love the report that comes out from your team, and it helps me as a trustee just understand kind of bigger picture of things that are going on in the community. And so I commend your team for putting, this is exactly what I need, and I'm assuming that you all need, just to try to understand what's going on, so thank you all.
Yeah, the folks that are in Intel, our analyst, she does a tremendous job of that, so,
Awesome.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we move on to the Little Miami Joint Fire and Rescue and the Deer Park Silverton Fire District Report with Mr. Lamar.
The only update I have is that we are meeting tomorrow in Fairfax. It's our monthly meeting. It just happened to occur the day after this meeting, and so it's an odd month. And I would just stress that we can only say so much because of confidentiality and signed confidentiality between communities. And so as a board, sometimes we're unaware of what's happening, but we are 100% committed to providing fire and safety and EMS to all communities. That will not stop. So there's been rumors out there, and I just wanted to try to dispel them, that we all care about providing fire and safety. It's the utmost thing that we care about, and so that will continue.
Thank you.
We have a legal responsibility
Yes.
as a township to provide fire services either directly or through a district. And so
Yeah.
we take it very seriously.
Absolutely.
And I know we've continued to work on the partnership idea of doing something with a more geographically strategic partner in Marymount to help reduce our costs in Fairfax. And I know Marymount's got a lot of local social support that is coming out, putting out a lot of information that I find fascinating. Confounding, fascinating. But whatever the case, we're continuing to work on that. But it's just fascinating when you try to do this, how much wind is blowing in your face for really what I call misinformation and nonsensical reasons. But the only debate I've got is whether or not I go out and advocate that, go to Marymount Council meetings and advocate our position. And I don't want to create drama, but it's hard to watch. So just hard to watch what the truth is and what gets said. That's my point.
To your point, Marymount has a citizens group that are compiling information and feedback in the community. They had a public meeting you can watch online within the past couple of weeks. Very informative about how they kind of think in Marymount and where things are going. So for more information, you could watch that meeting of it.
Fair game. Okay. We move on to trustees reports. I'll start with you.
Just three quick things. I want to commend the Good Shepherd Montessori School. They made significant efforts to try to stop the flooding at the base of the flooding. A bunch of us met there, some county engineers, the school, a board member from the school, Melissa, John Servizzi, and I, and resident, met there because that is a significant issue in my part of the neighborhood and most of Madison Place. So I want to commend them. They've made significant efforts. I've got pictures of it. I've been monitoring the progress. Still waiting on what's called a box grate. I don't want to get too technical because I don't understand it either, but they're still waiting on that, and that'll be a very significant piece. The engineers feel this will stop the flooding there. Mother Nature may have a say in that, but I think that this is really the most significant progress that has been made in that area in quite a while that I can remember. So I really commend the school for doing that. They paid for that themselves. You mentioned Fleet Feet grand opening. It was amazing being there. They're great people at Fleet Feet. They're really involved in the community. And an example of that is I went on Labor Day, I went to the dog parade in Marymount that they had, and they were sponsoring the event. And so they're really involved in the community, and so I expect to see them at events in the future, supporting the community. And by community, that means Columbia Township, Marymount, they think broader like that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was that I noticed on Labor Day that there was free ice cream being provided out of a truck in the Porsche lot, Porsche of the Village, and that was great. There's a lot of kids there, a lot of families there from all around, and I happened to see an employee of the Porsche, and I asked them about it. I said, "That's great that you all had free ice cream there." And they said, "Well, it was actually came from the grand opening of the Madison Place coffee shop. It was their 1-year anniversary.
Yeah.
They had reached out knowing that the Woosty Group had owned an ice cream truck and said, "We'll pay for it. We just want to provide ice cream." And I don't think they wanted us out or told, and I'm sure they do this in the community a lot, but the Woosty Group paid for it. And so someone at the gas station at UDF told me that, and I just thought that was a great giving back to the community that they didn't want publicized, I don't think, and I'm probably violating a trust by doing that today, but it wasn't just Madison Place people. There were Madisonville people, there were Marymount people, there were people just driving through there seeing an ice cream truck. And this was really good ice cream. I have a picture of it, I'll show you. So just commending, I think it was 425 people got free ice cream that day.
Great, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions about the communications? Then we move on to resolutions, which we have none.
We
That's rare, that's first
tackled
time.
everything in August.
Wow.
And we will have
Good.
plenty in October. I looked back last year at this time. This is the next meeting starting to show up. I looked back and we were eaten alive last year at this time with all of the CARES resolutions because of the CARES funding for the business stimulus, and we had to pass multiple resolutions with the county and with the state, agreeing to participate in their grant distributions and signing agreements, and then how we were going to spend them, and then we had heavy workloads. So this is a little bit of a momentary breath of fresh air before it starts again. October we'll have things related to, snow and winter and end of year and budget and other things like that, so.
Okay,
Awesome.
all right, with that, I make a motion that we approve the payment of bills, bank reconciliation, and financial reports. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes. I make a motion to sign the minutes and resolutions. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes. And I make a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Makes it easy on you today,
I
huh?
know.